Everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of Startup Buzz. This is our 51st edition. We have this every Thursday, 5 p.m. And, this time again, we have, a very interesting topic with two interesting people, and I shall not steal the thunder and let them introduce themselves. But before I hand over to you both, Anurav and Shrey, I also want to add that, besides the startup buzz, which has been going on, over the past 12 months, we are soon going to start a mentoring program as well for startups. And communication for this will be coming out soon in the next, couple of weeks. And, I'm using this platform to reach out to all of you and tell you, startups must take advantage of this, to get guidance from an experienced panel of mentors. So just watch out for that communication. And, over to Anurav and Shrey. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ravikant. Good evening, everybody. Today we have a wonderful guest, Shrey, who is the co-founder and CEO at Helium. Brief introduction to Shrey for everyone. So he is working at the intersection of AI and commerce. So Helium is basically building an agentic AI platform to automate and scale growth for e-commerce brands. And they're working with brands like Mamaearth, Lenskart, Noise, and they've helped them increase their revenue per visitor by 15%, which in my opinion, is absolutely fantastic. So today's topic, Shrey, as you're aware, is why e-commerce brands misunderstand customers and lose money. We'll be happy to have your insights. Over to you in case you want to introduce yourself or share anything with the audience, and post that. I'll start off with the questions.
No, I mean, you've sort of mentioned all there is about my context, but no, excited to be here and looking forward to a wonderful chat with you. And yeah.
Sure. So I'm sure everybody is aware here, but whenever, during the conversation, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box, and I'll try to pick as many as possible. So Shrey, first, question that we have for you is, do you think e-commerce brands truly understand their customers today, or is there a gap?
I think, I mean, it's true that, I mean, even retail brands don't understand their customers as well as they would like to. And, knowing your customers, I mean, on a spectrum of, I do not know who the customer is, where do I sell, and all of those, to I know each and every individual that I sell to, why they bought my product. I think brands exist in some spectrum. And the challenge with e-commerce, it brought about a lot of data with its sort of ecosystem, but it's become a large data problem that nobody is able to solve and find the right insights on what do I really action on and create my brand on. So while it creates a tremendous amount of data, the actionability is what we found missing. So almost on all conversations with these small, large brands that we talk to on a daily basis, we venture into those conversations and we sort of front load that conversation with, okay, great. You think you know your ICP, you define this ICP, you're selling to this person for this use case during this point in time. But does your data suggest that exact same thing that you have from a perception perspective? And almost always we found that missing. And I have very interesting anecdotal examples where we work with a large consumer electronics brand, and they wanted to personalize their web store for their users. And the simple question of, okay, tell me your 3 key user personas that you sell to for a specific category. And 4 people within their team had 4 different answers. So I think understanding of users is a spectrum. And there is a perception, or I'd not say delusion, it's a very strong word, but there is a perception that we understand those users. But still, there's a large gap between them thinking that they understand and them actually understanding. And then as a function of our existence, we try and make it slightly better. I do not claim we've sort of brought a significant change in how they understand it, but can we make it incrementally better so that the actionability kicks in is what we try and do. But yeah, I don't think, so a long story short, I think there's a large gap between the amount of data that we're capturing and the amount of actionability that we're able to drive out of it from a customer understanding perspective.
Understood. So I think, that was really helpful to address, the biggest problem I think most e-commerce brands probably face. And, since you've addressed the problem with such great insight, why don't you just also take a moment to tell us how does Helium work? And if someone, if one of the viewers probably has an e-commerce brands and they are looking to use Helium, how would Helium help them and how does the product work?
So I'll be honest, we didn't arrive at let's figure out and understand users as the first insight. We were again just like everybody else. We had some solutions and potential some problems that we wanted to solve with these solutions. And then we realized sometimes our solution worked and sometimes it didn't for the same problem across brands. And then we realized we should become a data company that finds the issues slash opportunities and then think of actioning on top of it. So what we now do is we essentially, whenever we sort of work with a new brand, we ask them to sort of install and get all of the integrations done in sort of no time. And then we ask them for at least 3 to 7 days for us to, for the system to understand and read through the data. And when I say read through data, we are essentially a pixel on their digital storefronts across their app and web ecosystems. And then we try and stitch every data point together. Who's the person who's seeing impressions on a Facebook ad, or who's that person who's searching for me on Google? Is it the same person who's finding me across platforms, or am I targeting very, very different people across these platforms? And if there are same people that I'm targeting, how many times do I need to bring, say, Anurav back to my web store for him to be convinced that he wants to make a purchase? Versus, and these are, I think there are at least a few hundred questions that we baked into the system for it to find, are people from Mumbai meaningfully buying my product, or are people in Delhi liking my product? And then there are different cuts of every data point that we sort of sit on. And at the end of that 7-day period, we typically come up with the actionable insights of, and those insights could look like you are targeting wrong people on Meta because of these 5 ads which are not performing as well, or your entire account is overpaying for your existing customers, because there are people that you can convert well on WhatsApp, but you're trying to target them on Meta. So think of it as we come up with this actionability and then the features that we want to sort of implement on their ecosystem as a function of data, and not, I think this would work well for this brand, so let me try it out and hope things work out. So that's the methodology. But again, what do? We essentially action across your ad networks, your web store, your app, to change around the experience from a content, creative, and product perspective. So people in Bombay would see a very different experience of, say, a Mama's website to people in Delhi. And that actionability is what gets the delta that you mentioned in the early part of our conversation.
Okay, that's maybe a little complicated product to understand, but I'm sure very useful products, since it'll help you really improvise and understand your customer. So, since you're working with so many brands, I'm sure, you must have observed a pattern. And what do you think most brands misunderstand about their customers?
I think we try and cohortize every visitor into, this is a very high likely purchaser, to this is a churned customer, to again these, and I used to work at product companies, so I know what these constructs and segmentations look like. And we'd map out key events. If X and Y happened at during certain duration, this is a Y type of user. So I think this segmentation of users, helps in actionability, and sort of create a good Pareto from that POV. But what we then typically miss is, here is a person who's logged on to my website. This person comes in during the night, and they look at these 2 products specifically, but both of those are not in stock, or potentially have variants that are not in, sort of variants of sizes that are not available. And potentially this user might be just looking at large variant of this, either of these 2 products, but somehow I am tagging this user into a user of no intent, because they come into my website, spend 10 seconds and drop off. So my filters of 10 seconds, if anybody comes in and drops off, this is a non-intentful user, is not the right way to look at it. So segmenting users with if-else logics is, I feel, the biggest problem. All of our CDPs, WhatsApp and email marketing automation tools are built on if-else statements, which I feel now in the current age of AI shouldn't. They need in sort of reinvention, and which is where we sort of try and help these brands.
Right. I think I agree with you that, with the AI, advancements coming into
Yeah.
almost all use cases now, I think it's time we all start leveraging them. So,
Yeah.
since you have so much data, can you tell us, does this data vary? When brands are working, say, when a brand has just started out with, say, and has only 100 odd customers, and does it change when they have millions of customers, and how does it change?
So I don't think, again, I think data changes across different dimensions. Data changes across category. Within the same category, I might be operating at a 800 rupee ticket size versus some other brand would be operating at a 2,500 rupees ticket size. So it changes basis category, ticket size, geographical construct, and my own catalog bias. But the problems changes. So for a brand which say does 100 orders a day, it is about finding the right hooks for their content to scale up their sort of paid media on, versus a brand that's say doing a few thousands to tens of thousands of orders a day. Their problems are more efficiency problems because they are at some degrees of capacity maxing out the audiences from a product catalog perspective. So for instance, with Mamaearth, it wasn't the case of maximization, but they knew that tier one audience has in some form and shape saturated for them. So can we tap into tier two, tier three audiences with very interesting product constructs from a pricing perspective and offer perspective? So efficiency is a big brand problem versus I'd say finding the right channel, and there are multiple constructs of fitment, channel hook, channel product, channel retention fits from a brand POV perspective for them to make sense from a unit economics perspective. And unit economics is incredibly important for a new age brand, especially now. 2 years earlier, nobody was talking about should I be profitable. It was all growth at all costs. But now every brand that we talk to, and it's interesting, we had to update our dashboard to incorporate returns, COGS, and every aspect. Because now brands want to talk about, hey, what's my channel level unit economics, profitability, or whatever sort of losses. And again, that's a function of just the times that we're living in. But yeah, a small brand, existential questions and finding the right channel fit versus large brand, it's an efficiency problem.
Makes sense. Agreed over there as well. So, since now a lot of brands are tracking a lot of metrics, what do you think? What do you think they're over measuring and probably under understanding?
So ROAS, conversion rate, the most abused words that I've ever heard, where go to 10 SaaS providers or 100 agencies and they'll claim, I'll get your ROAS to X and I'll get your conversion rates to Y. I think what's of meaningful value and purposes are there are different stages of the funnel, and each stage has its own key metric that you should identify. What's that one metric that we obsess about is revenue per visitor, because if I am getting charged by our Meta and Google overlords on cost per visitor, why don't I just measure revenue per visitor, which captures all of these constructs? These metrics are very abused, but I think what we typically do is break the funnel and say, how good are my creatives? How do I assess? What's that benchmark metric looking like? Obviously, click-through rate is one important metric, but that's an outcome metric. How long can I hold a impression from a video play length perspective? So what's my hook rate looking like? What percentage of people are viewing more than 50% of my content on Meta? That becomes an interesting metric. So there are, again, different metrics across the board, and some metrics we had to devise ourselves. So we calculate an intent score on your web store. So think of it as there are 100 people that land on any e-com website. 8 to 12 of those in any given capacity add to cart, and 0.5 to 1.5% typically convert. Now, can I really find who were those intentful people that were actually wanting to make a purchase but due to some reason didn't? And how do I find those people? So what we do is we find these proxies of success where we say ultimate goal is purchase. But if somebody goes and selects some size variant or goes through my size selector on an apparel brand, that's a good show of intent, right? Versus if I am selling a beauty product, reading through reviews is a great proxy for intent. So can I find these proxies of intent which has high correlation to success, which is purchase? and then really capture that data in real time for every visitor, and then bucketize people into these intentful score categories. And that becomes an interesting measure for us to optimize for. Can I find more intentful people so eventually my conversions improve? So again, I think the takeaway is, can we break the funnel and find smaller key interesting variables that is closer to the input than to the output? So if I were to say, I want to if everybody wants to optimize for lifetime value, but how can I give Meta the signal of lifetime value? Say, how soon can I give Meta the concept of lifetime value of a user, predicted lifetime value of a user? If the sooner I give in the user journey, the better my metrics sort of look from a outcome perspective. Again, just random stuff that I thought could be meaningful, but yeah, just break down the funnel and measure each funnel step with its own success metric.
Understood. So, Shrey, while we're at it, we also have a few questions from the audience. I'll just try to pick up a few of them. In the meanwhile, if anybody else also has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat box. So, Shrey, the first question I think the audience has is, why do brands often struggle to convert first-time buyers into repeat customers?
Wow. So I think I'd love to break it up into two parts. First part, if the product is not good enough, if the experience wasn't good enough, that it's almost unlikely that you'll convert. But I think the bigger problem that I see, and I think it's an opportunity, something that we'd love to address at some point in time, or again, an idea for somebody to build a SaaS product on. There is no retention. I mean, for us, retention is, let me send a WhatsApp blast. That's what, in the current scheme of things, retention looks like. Which I'm always amazed at. Think of it this way, that let's look at some of the best products in the world. Do they treat retention as, let me send 100 WhatsApp messages a month, and those are standard WhatsApp messages, and hope people convert? And I have two people who are running this retention campaigns, and I'm rewarding them that, wow, you've brought in these many orders. So I feel we do not have the instrumentation or tool sets for doing right retention. And it's interesting, we're seeing this pattern where brands are now asking us for, can you tell me my repeat user CAC versus my first time repeat customer CAC versus first time customer CAC? So I think, and it's very evident, right? If you don't have a repeat customer CAC which is significantly better and the return rate is better, you'll not be able to build a brand, because there's hardly any brand who's earning on the first order. So why are people not able to sort of convert people? I think a combination of lack of creative thinking from a founder POV plus little to no tools that have been built around that meaningfully solve retention problem, is my biased opinion.
I think makes sense. I think most businesses, even ours, even at Luso, I think, our business is built out of repeat customers, because I think, if you continuously have to spend for performance marketing, I don't really think you're making a business for yourself, except for Meta and Google.
Meta and Google, yeah.
So, another question that we have from the audience is, okay, what is the customer behavior, that startups usually ignore?
And again, I want to contextualize this in the context of digital, because and D2C especially, because marketplaces and quick commerce don't give you enough data for you to even read any customer behavior, except how many sales am I getting through each channel and each location. What do they most ignore? I don't think they ignore, but they don't have the right tool set to capture and understand that. So think of it this way right now. If a founder or anybody has a thought that, how do I understand users, their best sort of go-to tool is Microsoft Clarity. And they ask people to go through recordings of different sessions and hopefully come up with some insights on what's the problem statement. Now imagine if somebody were to ask you to go through CCTV footage of everything that's happening around your office and find issues in productivity. I'm sure you'll be able to crack it, but the time to value is so less that you'll never find that sort of activity enriching. So again, I think, wow, it's interesting why somehow my answers are sort of just guiding towards, can we build better tools to understand customer behavior? Because the time to value is so high. So time to value is so high that most founders don't invest that time. and hence that is the gap.
Right. I think makes sense. Another one that we have is, I think a very common question. I'm sure that most even early stage founders would love to know. What metrics should a founder track beyond CAC and ROAS?
So I think one that you touched upon is repeat percentage. If you don't have a repeat percentage, you should just turn off the business sooner rather than later, because as you said, you're sort of working for Meta and Google and not for your investors or yourself. But what metrics do founders should track beyond these? I think revenue per visitor is something that we obsess about internally, because that captures everything there is about the output, the demand side of things, versus the supply in terms of where am I acquiring the audience gets sort of taken care of by cost per visitor. So revenue per visitor captures everything from a what product. So think of it this way, that there is a product that you feel doesn't do as well from a conversion standpoint, but just because it's higher AOV, that draws you 50 rupees in average in revenue per visitor, while there's a product that's selling like hotcakes, but it's getting you 20 rupees per visitor. So that's, I think, and then that biases us to selling cheaper products, because we somehow pigeonhole India into a price conscious market. And I know now we've started to think of this system that India is value conscious and not price conscious. I think that is very, very true. If somebody's building a brand, please do it at a reasonably good average order value, because if you're selling goods worth less than 1,000 rupees on D2C, it's going to be a nightmare until unless you have it's going to be a nightmare. So average order value and revenue per visitor would be my two sort of metrics that I track, and repeat percentage.
Right. So, I think, Shrey, we've spoken a lot about metrics. So, one question that comes to my mind is, has the modern e-commerce become too metric driven?
Yeah, that's true. And in fact, that it'll be it's a good internal reflection question for me as well, because that's what we talk about on a daily basis. It has become that, but the interesting bit is, while we treat this as a channel of acquisition and channel for distribution, I think it isn't now that I'm thinking, isn't every business about tracking those metrics? And I think those metrics change with time. So earlier it never used to be ROAS as much. It used to be what's my month-on-month growth rate. But now it's about efficiency. Now it's about my CM2, my CM3, and all of those metrics. So I think it is about metrics. I don't know if it should be or should not be, but it is about metrics. And just try and improve and bring delta improvements into those metrics is potentially what all of us are trying to do.
True. I think even I agree with you over there, because until you know your numbers, how are you going to build?
Exactly. I mean, I might build the best revenue making company, but if it's not bringing in efficiency, there's just no point of doing it. So, yeah.
True. So, I think, since we are, now that almost every startup that even I know, I think everybody is now tracking numbers. Even with all the numbers, all the data, why do you think brands still struggle with conversion? Like, what's the gap?
I think there are newer and newer problems that brands unlock. So earlier, Meta was a level play. Meta, Mamaearths of the world have scaled their business on Meta because there was little to no competition in their categories. And I still believe there are a lot of white spaces in India's consumer ecosystem for brands to tap into. But now so think of it as the interesting metric to look at is what's my CPM, cost per million impressions. What's that and how is that trending up? And it's interesting, you'd look at, we internally have these systems that we track for an apparel category which is selling at this price point, what should be the ideal CPM? And we've tracked this over the past 3 years in our journey, and we've seen at least a 2x jump in CPMs on Meta, which implies there are more and more brands getting created and more competitive. The competitive landscape is increasing. So to give you benchmarks, the spend capacity in US is anywhere between 4 to 5x of what India does. But the CPM delta between India and US is of 10x. So what we believe is it's going to become more and more expensive to run ads as the ecosystem matures, as the consumerism spreads in India. It's gonna get it to that parity, and I think it'll at least increase 2x in the next few years, and that'll create even more pressure from a brand POV perspective. So I think I mean the problem changes, and then all of us have to find creative solutions and make things work for our own brands. Say for a quick now that's an interesting. So earlier, I mean, we work with a few CPG brands. D2C as a channel has never worked for them. But suddenly there is this one shift of quick and now this is a category to go after. And there are brands of a few 100 crores that are getting created in no time because now here's a channel that they can unlock themselves on. So not sure if I answered your question, but yeah, I think these metrics keep changing over time.
Of course, I think you pretty much covered it. So I'll take another one from the audience. I think the next one would be, what role does AI play in understanding customer intent and behavior?
Wow. I think all of us are just barely scratching the surface. And I'll give you anecdotal of examples of how we try and do it, but I still believe we're also scratching the surface of what we can do with AI. Think of it as, and again, you need to figure out if it's at the right cost. I'll give you constructs of, you could sit on a website, auto tag every. I used to be a product manager at consumer companies, and what I always used to struggle with is every new feature that I sort of co-created with a developer, we had to mark these custom events of, hey, let me track this event and I'll see if this is getting adopted. Now, some other engineer in some other pod made some changes and that tracking is off now, and suddenly I can't make actionable insights. And that used to be my life on a daily basis. And it used to be a nightmare to just manage this infrastructure of analytics and attributes and so on and so forth. So what we do at Helium is we track everything and try and compress that and find meaningful sections and elements on your website using AI. What are the other approaches? And this is how we try and identify, are you reading through reviews? And if you're reading through reviews, are you looking at reviews which are positive or negative? Because that helps me understand, you're looking for reasons to make a purchase, or are you looking for reasons to not make a purchase? And I need to answer some of your objections that you have in your head. So I can only make this inference if I have understood and tagged all of your UI elements on your web store. And this is one example of how we use AI. But can I also, I'll give an interesting example. Anurav went through Myntra's website, looked through 100 products. How do I find, is he interested in Nike shoes, white Nike shoes, or he's interested in white Nike shoes for somebody that he wants to give, which is his mom. Now, these are three very, very nuanced insights that I could make, and these are different levels of understanding of a user. How can I make it? So we try and solve this problem of what occasion, purpose, attributes are you trying to make a purchase for? And again, we use AI to do it. So these are some anecdotal examples that I have seen. I think there are a few players out there who are trying to create attributes from your Microsoft Clarity session. So you don't need to go through the CCTV footage. All you need to do is, here is somebody who's tagging here's a clip that a car moved from that frame. So hence I just need to go through these tags and not through each video. So again, some examples of what I've seen that people are doing to track better, B, create attributes that help understanding data better, and then C, use all of this understanding to predict better. And then you could use AI to do all three, if not one. Yeah.
So, since you're talking about this, how things are changing, how AI is actually making a difference. What do you think is the future of customer understanding?
The future of customer understanding would be, I think it'll be a system of agents or workflows that understands and just gives me, I mean, the statement of majority of your visitors are dropping off because your price is slightly more premium as compared to your positioning. That's such a mature statement to make. With what degree of accuracy can we get to that statement? And then actionability is the easier part. Changing the price, if my bottom line allows it, is the easiest part, but finding that insight is the entire notion. So I think as AI progresses, we'll be able to find very, very mature insights. I mean, think of it, with all of these AI tools, all we are able to do is do very high quality work with lower amount of effort required from our side, right? So the equation of quality of work to effort of work required, it's becoming much, much, much larger. That's what Canva did pre-AI, but now Nano Banana does post-AI. So I think in that sort of progression, all we are sort of gunning towards is higher quality work at lower effort required. So yeah, the quality of insight would be delivered to us and not for us to somehow uncover across different tools and probably a month of data analysis.
Right. So, since everybody, is looking to just improve their conversion rates,
Yeah.
An early stage founder might not have the kind of funds or access to the tools and, actionable data insights, etc. So for, such a founder, do you have any tips in terms of how they can improve conversion rates without increasing ad spends?
I don't think for an early stage founder, conversion rate should be a problem statement. For him or her, the problem statement has to be uh, how soon. Think of it as I mean, I love to sort of use this analogy where how do LLMs learn? How do GenAI models learn? They essentially have an error rate that they're trying to minimize, and they're trying to predict what to do next, right? What's the next word that I should sort of what's the next word given the sequence of words that I should predict? So, assuming there is this 1% conversion rate is what I'm chasing, obviously there has to be these goals. It has to be an iterative process for you to find the right hook rate. I think rather than conversion rate, you should look at the hook strength. I know of a brand called Ghar Soaps. Now, they're a crazy brand. They sell 300, 400 rupee soaps. They call it magic soaps. Now, the simple insight that this brand built on it, this is what my biased understanding is that tanning is an India problem. Solving tan in the least amount of effort is a great problem for India. How can I really double down on this hook of this is a wide enough problem, but the effort required to solve tanning is sort of not something that I know or understand as a consumer. Can a product solve for me that? So, and this is just one anecdotal example. The insight that I have is conversion rate, ROAS, all of these are trailing metrics. If your hook is solid enough, if the problem that you're solving is wide enough and the hook is solid enough, and it's interesting, I was watching a video from some seasoned person and they mentioned if you have three things, and I'll just mention that one thing because if you have that, everything else will take care of itself. Can you in 30 seconds convince somebody to buy a product and deliver all the value that this product sort of has to offer in those 30 seconds? And if you can, you have a business to be built. If you don't, just keep iterating and get to that 30-second pitch. Interesting enough, I don't have that pitch for myself for Helium. It took me long enough to explain you what our product is. And hence I am also in that iterative process, but yeah, that's my 2 cents.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So, Shay, just we'll take one last question from the audience, and then I just have like a rapid fire for you. Just
Sure.
3 question rapid fire, and we can move on to the next. So, I think one last should be: how do you stay close to customer problems as a founder?
I think I'll share with my journey and potentially some of the brands that I've seen that have done this very well. You need to be involved in customer success to some degree. You need to be close. So I used to work at Indify and like with Alok, he was the CEO there. And it was interesting at that scale of disbursements and the scale at which Indify used to operate. I still used to go to customer conversations. We used to go offline, meet these local shops and talk to them of why they took a loan, what their experience has been. And the only learning that I had was there were 100x more insight that I uncovered talking to those people than what any data report could sort of present. So the most essential thing that as a founder one should do is talk to your customers, be a part of your customer success team as a individual contributor. Do not try and sort of also become the team lead there, but yeah, just be an IC there, talk to customers, solve their problems, and you'll find 100 new problems to solve or 100 new things to improve on as compared to relying on data.
Essentially, basically, everything is just not on your screen. Sometimes you have to have human interaction to probably understand what a computer will not tell you.
Exactly.
Right, absolutely makes sense. So I think, Shred, now we'll just move on to the rapid fire. I think the very first question that I have for you is, would you continue to be Helium founder, or would you like to be an e-commerce founder?
I'd continue to be a Helium founder. I think B2B is easier, more predictable. I think, again, there are different sort of founder personas that I feel more at home with a B2B persona. For B2C, you need to be more out there. You need to be okay with, being all over the place and yet making sense of things. Not to say that it's not in the case of B2B, but yeah, I'd like to be in B2B.
Okay, so then, if you were a D2C founder,
yeah,
what would your product be? Which industry?
It could be again, I either of say car accessories, because my father owns a offline store, and I still feel that is a white space that nobody solved for. I don't know if there's some not technical but beautification problem with my car. Where do I go to? Or I'd love to build a brand around sports. I feel again there's an unmet need there, but those are more driven by my own consumption than what market suggests.
Nevertheless, I'm sure you have so much of data and so much of insights from so many brands.
Yeah.
I'm sure audiences could pick on one of them probably to
Yeah.
start off something new. One last rapid fire question for you. Pre-AI era or post-AI era?
I mean, for what? For mental peace, for sure, pre-AI. I think almost on a day.
More for your work related, for your prosperity business.
No, I think work. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. We've seen incredible productivity gains, and we were thinking of capturing how we're sort of using AI internally, and sort of open it to the world as well of what our opinionated take on what an AI first company could look like, at least from a productivity perspective. But I think post AI for sure, the amount of work done, it's interesting. I mean, I don't think any of our engineers write code anymore. And I'm not even kidding. Our cloud consumption is through the roof. But that's a metric that we track internally, which is a metric for prosperity for us now, apparently. But yeah, post AI for sure. Yeah, the amount of work getting done in little time is it's a momentarily sort of arbitrage that we have, that some of the companies are having because of the large team structures that they have. They can't adapt as fast, and we being a lean team can adapt. So that's sort of working in our favor.
Fine. I think, I was just about to ask you, which AI tool do you use? Probably another insight for our audience. But, thank you for mentioning. And I think that's about it from our end. And, for the audience, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I'm Anurag Dave, founder and CEO at Luzo. And please remember, Startup Buzz happens every Thursday. So do remember to join in. And I'm sure if you're looking to get more insights about data and would love to work with Helium, I'm sure you can reach out to Shrey on LinkedIn. And that's about it. Fine. Thank you so much, CII team, for hosting the wonderful event.
Thanks, Anurag. Bye.
Thank you, Shrey.